family and friends. Welcome to our Women's History version of Real Talk. As you come in, let us know you're there. Share the stream. I'm going to do that while I ask you to do it. Share the stream. All right. There we go. I did my part. Yes. So, hello. Welcome to Real Talk. So, today we are going to talk about our favorite disruptive women, whether they're in the Bible or outside of the Bible. We are going to talk about some disruptors as we round out this Women's History Month. And so, to join me for this conversation today, I have the lovely lady that doesn't like to be called first, our resident therapist, Pamela. And I have a member and friend of TFC, Portia, here with us today. And so it's gonna be real dialogical, real conversational, and we're just gonna talk about some ladies that was disrupting some stuff, shaking some tables, as you will, messing up some things. Okay, so I'm gonna toss it over to you first, Pam. Give us the rundown of your favorite disruptive lady.
Sure. Can y'all hear me? Good. Okay. So I'm Pamela, the therapist from the faith community, and when I was thinking about who I was going to choose as my favorite person in or out of the Bible, I really wanted to choose somebody that I resonated with, and so I chose Claudette Colvin. And Claudette Colvin was the 15-year-old girl from Alabama who refused to give up her seat 9 months before the bus boycott was organized. So Claudette lived in the projects, basically. She lived in a really bad part of town. And around the time that she refused to give up her seat, she had a classmate at her school that was given the death sentence. He was 16. He was given the death sentence for uh, confessing to raping a white woman, which he retracted because he said he gave his statement under duress. So that happened, and then she goes to school, and she said the day that it happened on the bus, they had been in school talking about Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth, and she said she was on the bus with like 12 or 13 of her other classmates, and she felt so empowered because she knew she had rights. They had talked about the Constitution. So, you know, and it resonated with me because I remember being young in middle school and starting a petition to have more Black history taught in my middle school. And just like her, I didn't understand the impact that that was going to have on a broader scale. I was just trying to rile up my classmates and had all of these people signing this paper that I was going to take to the school administration. And my principal actually came and got me out of class and was like, Pamela, you are being a disruption. I was like 12. And so thinking about the disruption that she caused at 15 by saying, no, I'm not about to get up. And there was a seat across from her. And the white lady refused to sit in the seat across from her because if they sat in the same section, then it said that they were equals. So yeah, they called the police on my girl. She was 15, and they took her to big people jail and put her in a cell. Yes, they did. So shout out to Claudette Colvin. That was March the 2nd, 1955.
Wow, and it's so crazy how sometimes people who did the things first get lost in the narratives because they're not the ones that like blew up, but they were doing the same thing. They were fighting the same fight for the same
Yeah,
cause. And
yeah.
so yeah, shout out to Claudette. That's what's up.
Yeah. Claudette didn't get her shine because Claudette didn't fit the aesthetic that would capture the attention of white gaze. Claudette was from a really bad part of town. She was a little dark skinned girl that had this kinky hair. She was in high school. She was when you read it, they will call her mouthy and sassy, but we know what that means as Black women. That means that she was assertive. and she probably stood up for herself and advocated for herself and her friends. And so that didn't fit what the civil rights um, the civil rights demonstrators were trying to put in place at that time, because they did have the idea to center her in that. And then they decided, no, Rosa Parks is a better fit. Rosa Parks is light skinned. Rosa Parks is older. Rosa Parks' hair is long and fine and straight. And if she is disruptive, she will get the attention that we need to capture. So yeah, Claudette got lost in the shuffle. She didn't even know that what she did was as impactful as it was.
I think that's something right there. So when we're, younger and we're just standing up for things that we think are right, we don't necessarily know how disruptive we're being because we've been socialized to a certain extent, right? But we haven't been socialized to the extent of adults to know exactly how disruptive we're being in the moment when we take
Right.
those actions and do those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm gonna toss it to Portia if you want to respond, and then if you want to let us know who one of your favorite disruptive women is.
I kind of want to respond to. I love Claudette Colvin because she reminds me a lot of my kids. The students I taught, very mouthy and stuff, and I always remind my girls of who she is because it's like, people are really quick to put you down because you're gonna stand up for yourself. You're gonna be sarcastic. You're gonna tell it like it is a lot of times, and uh, and it's just like, but you can still make the move. You can still disrupt. You can still be a trendsetter in a sense. So yeah, I like her, and I hate that she got lost in the shuffle. And it was most definitely because civil rights movement did have a look, and it's more of because it's all about the white gays. That's a whole nother story right there. The person I chose was in the Bible, of course, but I chose Queen Vashti, and I'm Portia, by the way. If I haven't introduced myself, I'm so sorry, guys. And I chose Queen Vashti mostly because she only almost gets just like a mention in the Bible, and that's it. But I feel like it's something deeper to her story, and I feel like it's something for women to get from her story. And one of them is to you know um, I hate to say stubborn, but yeah, be stubborn and don't let people use you. And that's kind of like what I always got from that story. And though a lot of preachers have always like preached like maybe she was being disobedient or something like that. But if you look at the context of things, where the king was basically trying to parade her in front of a whole bunch of men, a whole bunch of people, just to look at her because she was very beautiful, and she just wanted to put herself in that type of position because I think it could have worked out really bad in her favor if she would have made that decision to be obedient to her husband or whatever. So yeah, I don't know. I just consider her a disruptive woman. Of just sometimes you have to be disobedient to shake things up.
Yeah, and I think sometimes the word disobedient gets a bad rap, just how sometimes the word disruptive gets a bad rap. And it doesn't always have to come from that negative connotation. You disobeying someone who doesn't have your best interest at heart. That's not wild. That's something that's regular. Like, you looking out for you and they're not. So why would you obey them? And so we have to take a look at how the lens that we're approaching those words from, because sometimes they have those stereotypes and they carry that weight and that stigma with them when in a certain situation it's not even necessary. So yeah. And when you were talking about Vashti was one of the people that I was thinking about before we got here today too. And I agree. I think that oftentimes people kind of they gloss over the intentionality behind her decision, because if you think about the setting and the context that she's in a patriarchal society. So her being disobedient comes with a greater there's the level of consequence there is extremely high. And so you choosing to disobey or defy or do the opposite of what was asked of you, it's not just like a slap on the wrist. This is going to be something that could, completely alter the trajectory of your life. And so by making that decision, she was definitely being a disruptive woman. Shout out to everybody in the chats. Hey Christian, hey Corey, hey Myron. Yeah, so we are talking about our favorite disruptive women in and out of the Bible. And so I'll throw one out there. I was thinking about Ida B. Wells. And so looking yes, I love her too. I can read lips just a little bit, just a little bit. And so I was thinking about who I would want to name for today as we are kind of going through different people. And with the passing of the anti-lynching law in the news recently, it made me think about her because, as you know, her work started through journalism. She was a journalist, she was an abolitionist, she was a writer, and as she was going around and she was doing her research and she was writing her um, articles and all of these things, she realized just how big a problem lynching was, and she made that her life's work, her life's mission. So we know her as an abolitionist and as a journalist because people have done the research, but she was really known for her anti-lynching campaign, and the way that she talked about it was why people were literally hunting her down. She was a pistol carrying woman because she said, "Run up, get done up, don't come around here playing with me." Like, no, 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 this is not what you want. And so I was thinking about how she used the background that she had in journalism and the passion that she had for the anti-lynching movement to be the disruptive speaker, and the she like went around the country having these giving these speeches, having these conversations, and being disruptive the to the social norms around the conversation and the way things were going at that present time. And so with that new legislation coming up, it just really had her at the forefront of my mind. She's already one of my favorite Black women in history, but it just sparked it even more. I was like, "Ooh, I want to mention her when we start talking about our favorite disruptive women because she is definitely one of mine." And
I love her. Her and Harriet Tubman, just my girls, and that's what I wrote about in February. But I love them. But I like the fact I was thinking about when I was reading up on her, about her home life and just she ended up raising all her brothers and sisters because her parents died. And I mean, she was like 15, 16 when it happened. And one thing I thought it was, which was hilarious, but it just shows her spirit. She got kicked out of school because she got to arguing with the president of the school and stuff. She was just very much just like I think of running theme. I feel like it's stubbornness, just and persistence, and that's what she was about. And even at a young age, I think she was like in her early 20s and stuff. She sued the railroad because she got discriminated against. On the railroad while she was, they were trying to put her in the back of the car and she was like, just not going. And yeah, I just really love her because she most definitely, I like how y'all said, shake the table.
yeah, and I see Corey chimed in disruptive women in the chat. So everybody that's watching, if you have someone in the Bible or out of the Bible that you were thinking about as we've been talking, or as you knew we were going to be having this conversation, drop it in the chat and let us know who one or two of your favorite disruptive women are. Pam, I don't know if you wanted to respond.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did. I was thinking about I was thinking about how Portia was telling her story and she said that Vashti is only like mentioned or brushed over. And it made me think about the way women are talked about in our churches from the Bible. And when I think about back about being a little girl in church, trying to remember stories that I heard about women. And when I heard stories about women, they were whores, or they were the temptress, or they were witches, or they were doing divination, something that was deemed sinful or unlawful. And I just want to give a shout out to all the disruptive women in the Bible, because they have to be disruptive for preachers to make it a point to overlook them and still preach that women are subservient and women should be passive and women should be quiet and women can't preach and women can't teach. And then you read it for yourself and you find out that there are these extraordinary women that nobody is talking about. And so when I was listening to y'all talk about Vashti, I was thinking, man, it the Bible is full of disruptive women because nobody ever talks about them. They just don't talk about them, because to talk about them and their contribution to the gospel is a disruption in itself. So, yeah, that was my feedback.
Yeah, and to talk about them validates the contribution, right? So for you to
Yes,
actually talk about what they're doing and the ways that they did it does the complete opposite of what you're trying to do.
and you can't
Acknowledges their disruption.
you can't center women in your sermon and in your speech, and then when it's over decenter them in your congregation. It doesn't line up. So
Yeah.
that's not a if you are in a ministry that does not have women's equity, nobody's going to be talking about these disruptive women in the church. They're going to be talking about everybody that they can taint, like Bathsheba and Delilah, like anybody that we can taint. We'll use them as an example to shame you, to keep you in your place. But we're not going to talk about women who led men and women who gave advice and women who solved problems. Like, nah, we're not going to do that. That's too disruptive for my doctrine. So we'll skip over those stories.
Yeah, and it makes me think about all the unnamed women. So, we get a lot of stories in the Bible that say a certain woman or this
Mhm.
woman
Mhm.
or women, all the women without names. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, so they were important enough to be in the story, but they can have a name. And so it's like, all the layers that
Mhm.
go into exactly
Yeah.
what that means. And yeah.
Names
Um,
make it personal.
yeah, there's a story with that. Portia, did you want to respond? I'm gonna start calling out some of the names in the chat.
No, it's fine. I was really like thinking as Pam was talking about just when I heard, the preachers preaching about women, it was always like a cautionary tale to other women. Like, this is not what you need to do. This is not, like when I always think about when Vashti was being preached, and it was just like a whole thing about disobedience and things like that. But I always had this big question in my mind, like, there are always other sides to the story. And so that's why, there's always like, why teach it as a cautionary tale? And, I think a lot of that goes back to just trying to put, like you said, like decenter us in the congregation. And it's just another form of that. Just, telling us that we're, second class citizen. We're, at the bottom of the totem pole. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's all tied up into patriarchy and misogynoir and ew. Um, so let's talk about some of the people that are being dropped in the chat. And so Corey said that he loves the daughters of, I always say this wrong, Zelophehad. And so these are the sisters. I think it was five sisters. It was either four or five sisters whose inheritance was in jeopardy because they didn't have any brothers and none of them were married, and so they were going to lose their father's property. And they was like, no, 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 we gotta fix for that. And so they were definitely some disruptive women. They said, y'all ain't get my inheritance, okay? I'm going to get all of that. And then we have Angela Davis.
Yes,
Yeah.
most definitely.
Hmm. And we have Marsha P. Johnson. Ooh, okay, a Bible one, Tamar from Genesis 38. Um,
Nina
Pris-
Simone.
yes, Nina
Yes.
Simone.
Yes. Very disruptive. Yes.
Hmm. Priscilla from the books the book of Acts, this kind of talks about what you were saying earlier, Pamela. She trained apostles, and her name is mentioned before her husband's whenever they are mentioned together. And so, in
Because her
order,
husband's name is Aquila, right? Priscilla and Aquila. Is that it? I think. I think that's his name.
somebody in the chat, Myra here, Myra, let us know if
Right.
that's
I
right.
think her husband's name is Aquila or something like that.
Yes, yes, yes. Um, Corey also said, "Oh, Mama Tony got us." Yes, that's right, Pam. You're right. Um, Corey said the non-Israelite women in the Hebrew Bible were disruptors by the very nature of them being named. And oh, and then Myron's chiming in with Hillary Clinton. So yeah, so it's so many disruptive women in and out of the Bible, all across the spectrum of life and intersections and lived experiences. And so one of the reasons that I wanted to highlight this as we wrap up Women's History Month is just because it goes to show that we take this specific month to celebrate us, but we've been out here rocking and doing great things since the beginning of time, and we're going to continue to be out here rocking and doing great things. And so, I just think it's really important for us to name things and to put voice to them and to actually talk about it. And so, all of these women and all the people that have been put in the chat are really significant to the narratives that we tell, the conversations that we have, shifting history, society, culture, all of those things. Um, is anything else coming up for either you, Portia, or Pamela?
No, I'm glad we did this. Because some like when you reached out, I was like, I don't know a bunch of women in the Bible. So can we add women that are out of the Bible as well? But I'm always like learning something. All of us come from a different place, and my upbringing Bible was focused on something different. So to sit down and talk about disruptive women and refamiliarize myself with disruptive women in the Bible, I'm always here for it.
Yes, awesome. Thank you for being here. And I think it kind of helps us to expand the conversation and to talk about them in tandem. I think that part is really cool. So, thank you for your suggestion about opening and broadening the conversation.
Mhm.
Portia, do you have any final words you want to share?
I noticed that Myron in the chat, he said that Priscilla wrote the book of Acts. I didn't know that. Now I'm gonna have to do some research because that is awesome.
Hebrews.
Hebrews. Yeah,
What
book of
Acts? I'm
Hebrews.
sorry, Hebrews. My bad. I'm paying. Not paying attention. Okay. Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to. Yeah, that's interesting. I like that. I'm gonna have to. Yeah, do some
Yes.
research.
Sometimes he calls it she brews. And I love it. I love it. I love it.
That's good. Yes.
So, thank you so much for joining us for this conversation for Real Talk as we wrap up Women's History Month. Of course, all of this is an extension of the faith community and the great work that we are doing there. So, if this has been a blessing to you and anything that TFC does is a blessing to you, please consider being a blessing to the faith community. You can give on Cash App, #TFCATL. You can give on our website at thefaithcommunity.org, and you can give on Givelify. In the words of William Glenn Bean, tap, tap, and give. And if you want to connect with the faith community and stay in touch with all of the things that we have going on, it's super easy to do that. You can just text the word disruptive to 855-706-1228. The number is right there on the screen. And so you just text the word disruptive, and you will be in the know of all the things that we have going on, connection groups, worship, Bible and Beyond. We be out here doing the work. We be busy, okay? We be booked and busy in these TSC streets. And so you can be in community in conversation with us. And so that's all we have for Real Talk today. We hope you all enjoy the rest of your evening, and thank you for spending some time with us. Bye.